Now, while we move forward to the fireside chat, which is going to be moderated by none other than Shri Sunil Parekh ji. He is the Strategy Advisor and Head Sustainability Zydus Life Sciences Group, Startup Ecosystem Veteran in Gujarat. He founding curator AGS, an initiative of WEF Geneva, member of National Executive Council FICCI and Chairman Social Compact SOCO to bring dignity to migrant laborers. While this chat is going to happen, I am reminded of an interview that I was fortunate to do on radio in the year 2012 when Shri Narayana Murthy ji had visited Ahmedabad. और मुझे उनके साथ इस फायरसाइड चैट में एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के बारे में हम कुछ नए लेसन्स पढ़ेंगे थ्रू श्री सुनील पारेख जी's questions. Over to you, sir.
Friends, it's a great day. We have gathered here today to meet the father of India's IT industry, a man who rose from humble beginnings to great riches, who started an entire new area of business in the country and put Indian tech on the global map, an innovator and a businessman, one who is loved and respected by all, a man who has received several awards and recognitions, both in India, like the Padma Shri and the Padma Bhushan and many others, and abroad from the governments of UK, France, and several other foreign universities. A man who is a philanthropist and who has served and continues to serve our nation as well. So friends, on behalf of TiE and all of us gathered here today, we welcome you, sir, Shri Nagavara Ramarao Narayana Murthy in flesh and blood today, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
The first question is about wanting to reflect on your journey, but before that, if you permit me, sir, I would like to give your journey in just 1 minute time.
Sure.
Born in 1946 in Mysore, graduated in electrical engineering in 1967, also from Mysore, masters in IIT Kanpur in 1969 in computer science, spent 12 years after that between IIMA as a research associate with Professor Krishnaiah, and then as chief systems programmer, where he actually did two very beautiful original innovations as well. This was followed by moving to Pune to start a company called Softronics, which failed within 1.5 years. And so then he took up a job as general manager at Patni Computers, much to the happiness of his would-be father-in-law, we can imagine, where he dated and married Sudha Kulkarni and met his 6 future business partners and started Infosys Consultants in 1981 at the age of 35. In just 4 decades, this startup has become a behemoth, ranked amongst the top 10 IT companies of the world, with a turnover of $17 billion, with a 17% net profit margin of $2.8 billion, employing over 300,000 people and still counting. He has created a company that stands at the current valuation of $71 billion today, is completely debt-free, and on an average, and very interestingly, the company adds on an average about $1 billion in revenue every year. What a great success story. Please join me in congratulating this young man of 76. So over to you. We would like to have your reflections on this extraordinary success story of yours, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. Parekh, for taking time off from your busy schedule for this conversation. I thank my friend Shri Harish Mehta for making my participation in this function possible. I also thank Shri Jaimini Shah and others of TiECON Ahmedabad for this privilege. Well, Infosys has been a very exciting journey between 7th July 1981, when I founded it along with 6 younger colleagues, and 2010, 10th October 2014, when all the founders completed their term at Infosys and retired. In between, it has been a very exciting journey, because right from the beginning, one of the strengths of this group was its strategic thinking. So we decided upon pretty early that there were 2 most important attributes for a startup. One is competence. I always said that we have to bring together a team that has mutually exclusive but collectively exhaustive set of skills, expertise, and experience. What I meant was that we needed a person who is fairly good in sales, a person who is fairly good in finance, a person fairly good in HR, a person fairly good in technology, a person fairly good in project management, etc., etc. So I identified 6 people who formed the 7-member team. And we all agreed when I made the suggestion that the 2 important attributes for success of a startup are competence and values. Competence in whatever they are expected to do. As I said, we wanted a person good in sales, we wanted a person good in finance, etc. That's the first part, is competence and the ability to learn new things quickly, which I defined as learnability. The second was the set of values, because values are the pillars on which the strength of a team stands. If you want to create full trust amongst the members of your team, there's only one instrument that you have, and that is a set of values. Your colleagues must say, I will go to a peaceful sleep tonight because I have full trust in my colleagues that they will not put their hands in the tilly and that they will not take advantage of me. So, values are extremely important. While competence is the necessary qualification, it's not sufficient. Values form the sufficient attribute. There were several positive and negative events. There were events that required tremendous courage. We were the second software company to go public. First was Mastech, the company of my close friend, Shri Ashank Desai, one of the finest human beings I have come across. While he managed his debut on the stock market, ours was not that easy. It was a very painful process. We just managed it. Then in 1995, I had to take a very tough decision of respectfully declining to continue our contract with a Fortune 10 company, because other companies, our competitors, had all agreed to sign on the dotted line to work at lower rates. But somehow I felt that if we did that, we'll be unfair to our other customers. Our profit margin will go down, and we would not have enough money to give better salaries to our people, to install high quality technology and physical infrastructure, and to put money in quality initiatives, in productivity initiatives, in R&D initiatives, etc., etc. So I had to take the tough decision because all my younger colleagues were in favor of continuing. I called my wife and told her that, look, next 3 years, I may be traveling for 300 days in a year. And do you think it would be possible for you alone to look after the 2 children? She has always been a wonderful companion. And she said, don't worry, go ahead and do whatever is in the interest of Infosys. So that was a tough moment, very tough moment. Then there was a tough moment where one of my admirable colleagues had to leave the company due to a certain transgression of value system. Later on, when I left the company, when we brought in a new CEO, there were events that led to governance deficits, and that was very painful, and we were fined by SEBI. I was not in the company at that time. And for a company that had become a role model in the country to be fined by the Securities and Exchange Board of India was very sad. But on the positive side, we built the country's first software services campus. We were the first company to be certified in CMM level 4 and CMM level 5, as well as Malcolm Baldrige Award. We were the first Indian company to be listed on stock exchange, and on NASDAQ, the US stock exchange. Even on US stock exchange, we became the first company to provide our income statement and balance sheet according to 8 generally accepted accounting principles, that is India, US, Canada, UK, France, Germany, Japan, and Australia, or something like that. Then we democratized wealth like nobody else in India has done. I don't know if it will ever happen again. We distributed, in addition to my distributing to my younger colleagues, a significant percentage of equity, which again has not happened in the country, in the entire history of the country. We distributed 19% of the equity of the company, which at today's prices, as Sunil said, would be somewhere around 14.5 billion dollars. And that would be, in Indian rupees, you multiply it by 80, about 120,000 crores. Nobody in the history of this country has done it. I don't know if it will happen again. I'm not sure. So there have been, Sunil, there have been both pluses and minuses. But as a person who has been taught by his parents that life is full of positives and negatives. In the South, we have a festival when we celebrate the New Year. I don't know whether it's Gudi Padwa in Gujarat, I don't know what it is. We call it Ugadi. On the Ugadi day, my father used to make all of us sit on the floor. Of course, we had no furniture at home. And then he would give each of his children, we were 8 children, each of his children a little bit of jaggery and a neem leaf. We would try to throw the neem out and eat only jaggery. He would not allow that. And we asked him, what is this, man? Why are you making us eat this bitter stuff? Why do you want us to suffer? He said, the reason why I want you people to eat both jaggery and neem equanimously is because on this day, you have to take a vow that the coming year will have both positive and negative events. And you are requesting God to give you the strength to treat these two events equanimously. So I would say that the journey of Infosys has had both positives and negatives. By and large, I think more positives than negatives. And overall, I would say I'm very, very happy because this was a decision that I took while I was hitchhiking from Paris to my hometown, Mysore, after a very uncomfortable event in Niš, a border town between Yugoslavia, what was then Yugoslavia, now Serbia, and Bulgaria. I decided to go back to my country and conduct an experiment in creation, in entrepreneurship. And God was very kind to me. I was very lucky. I was blessed. And that experiment, the second time it succeeded. So therefore, I would say I'm quite happy. I'm a satisfied person. I'm now in my 77th year. So I'm quite happy and I have no regrets. Sorry, I took a little bit of time.
No. It's always such a pleasure to listen to you, sir. I must share a secret with you, Mr. Murthy. When members of TiE Ahmedabad got the news that you have accepted to come and talk to us here, there was an actual wave of happiness, a tsunami of emotions around this news, that they were now going to see and hear you, their favorite icon, in person for this occasion. And your presence here means such a lot to such a lot of people here that I have no words to describe to you. Sir, let me take you up on the second point that you mentioned,
Sure.
between competence and values.
Yeah.
About values, your fundamental values, your guiding beacons in life and in business. Help us to understand, sir, and appreciate on the huge impact that they've had on the phenomenal growth of Infosys.
Well, as I said, values are what gives every member of a community, every member of a nation, every member of a team full confidence and trust in the behavior of other people of that community, other people of that nation, other people of that team. Now, building a company and taking it through ups and downs over a period of 30 and odd years, like I did, from scratch to probably about $10+ billion of revenue, is not an easy journey. In fact, once Bill Gates told me that he was very surprised that 6 of us, we were 7, but the 7th one dropped off pretty early. 6 of us had traveled this journey together for 30 and odd years. He said, I've never seen such a thing anywhere else. Now, doing this together requires full trust in each other. That nobody in the team will take advantage of the other people in the team when he or she is sleeping. Because then if you can ensure that there is trust, if you can ensure that everybody sleeps well, that unleashes tremendous energy, tremendous enthusiasm, tremendous confidence, tremendous hope, tremendous aspiration, tremendous hard work to achieve the plausibly impossible. So therefore, my firm belief is that if you people, the members of TiECON Ahmedabad, want to build something big, your team, some of you may be only one entrepreneur, it doesn't matter, but you have to work with professionals that you have hired. And those professionals must have full confidence in you. They must trust you fully. They must be ready to walk on water for you. They must come to the office every morning full of enthusiasm, full of confidence, full of hope, full of energy, saying that I will do this stuff today. For it to happen, you, the leaders, will have to demonstrate your adherence to values. Values, by and large, can be demonstrated best when the leaders make the sacrifice that is needed. Why do we all remember our parents with so much gratitude? The main reason? Because our parents made huge sacrifices for us to become better. So therefore, my request to all of you is that if you have a desire to build a big company, and it takes a little bit of time, then you must create trust in people. And that trust comes from your demonstrating adherence to the value system of the team by you walking the talk. That's where Mahatma Gandhi is the greatest leader that I admire in the world, because he believed in leadership by example. He believed in walking the talk. So I would say that I don't know of any company that has demonstrated longevity over a long period without adhering to a set of values. So values are absolutely essential if your dream is big. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, sir. In the context of today's economic environment, I think this is an extremely valuable message for youngsters, particularly as they embark, and really thank you very sincerely for it. Sir, Gujarat is a state of entrepreneurs from time immemorial. Each one of us present here today has also a lot of dreams in his or her eyes and great plans in their hearts. Business here work together, they see the future together, and they cooperate very affectionately with each other. So my next question to you, sir, is how has your own circle of connections, friends and colleagues, affected your choices and decided your pathway as you reflect back, sir?
We are all products of what our parents taught us, what our early teachers taught us, who our early friends were. By and large, I find that the foundation for values is laid by this group of people: parents, early relatives, early teachers, and early friends. And these become part of your DNA. These become, as Mahatma Gandhi used to say, your inner voice. If somebody suggests that you do something wrong, it is this upbringing that speaks to you as your inner voice. So therefore, how you were brought up by your parents, who your early friends were, who your primary school and middle school teachers were, they lay the foundation. Then afterwards in life, if you are lucky enough, you come across some extraordinary friends and some extraordinary teachers. I was very, very lucky in having some teachers who shaped me, my personality quite a lot. One was Professor Krishnaya here at IIM. He taught me lots of things. But the biggest lesson I learned from him was judge every transaction by the data and facts of that transaction. Second, don't carry the hysteresis or bias of prior transaction to the new transaction. In other words, start every transaction on a zero base. I had a very bright colleague called Jaikrishna Hakim. He was from Kashmir. And later on he went to US, he did his PhD, and he became a well-known professor of computer science in Canada. He and I used to argue with this professor quite a lot. And sometimes, because we were young, we would cross that invisible line of courtesy. And we would say things that we later on regretted. Let's say this happened at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. At 5 o'clock, Professor Krishna would come to our room and say, "Folks, why don't we go out for dinner?" And invariably he paid for it. That was the thing. And I used to get shocked. I said, there is something wrong here. So one day I asked him, I said, I don't understand this behavior. You and I have had a fierce disagreement on some technical issue. I find that with others at home and with among my friends, if I had that kind of a disagreement, they would make it a personal issue and they would not talk to me, I would not talk to them. But here you are completely forgetting that. And then you are starting the next transaction as if nothing had happened. He said, friend, that is the only way you can build trust in your fairness with your team. That's some important lesson that I learned. I remain ever grateful to him. Second, I had a teacher called Krishnamurthy who taught us applied mechanics in my second year engineering. And he was probably the best teacher I have seen. He had a wonderful PhD from the US, and he wrote on the board in capital letters. And everything he did, he strove for excellence in the class. So one day I asked him, what is it? Why are you putting in so much effort? Because we are all very ordinary people. We are in Mysore. This is a small town. I'm talking of 60 years ago. It's a small town. And nobody cares where Mysore is and all of that. But the way you're working, it appears like you think we are the most advanced people in the world. He said, no, the story is not about you. The story is about me. I want to be the world's best teacher. I want to compare myself with the best teacher in the world. I am not saying other teachers in Mysore are not good, therefore I can be a little bit better. No. So that's something that he taught. And in fact, one of the things that we did at Infosys was right from day one, in everything we compared with the world's best. We compared with Motorola for quality those days. We didn't compare with any Indian company because we knew that Indian companies are good, but they are up here. If you want to compare with the global best which are there, that is the way to go. We compared with Hewlett-Packard of those days, in human resources policies. We compared with Microsoft. At that time, Apple still was not as aggressive as it is today in its innovations. We compared with GE for producing quarter after quarter after quarter growth in both the top line and bottom line, under Jack Welch. So in other words, Dr. Krishnamurthy's advice to me to not compare with your neighbors, but with the best in the world, I think that was very, very useful for me. My request to all the wonderful entrepreneurs assembled here is, try and compare yourself with the best in the world in your field. Today, it will appear very difficult. It will appear expensive. But I can tell you, nothing is as expensive as not wanting to reach the skies. So please do that. So I would say, the third thing, I had a boss in Paris who was a South African Englishman. And there was an incident. We were part of development of a large operating system for handling air cargo. And when you test an operating system, it's very, very tough because there is nothing there, It's just a clean machine. Everything is written in assembly language. And you load it. And if somebody's program bombs, all that you get is a 400-page hexadecimal listing. And then you go from link to link to link, you traces links, and finally you find out whose program was the errant program. One fine day, Friday evening, 5 p.m., the finger pointed at mine because, that day there was a person in file management, there was a person in device management, there was a person in memory management, there was a person in task management, there was a person in login and recovery, etc. All of us were there. But in France, Friday, 5 p.m., it is very difficult to stop people from going home. One fellow said, no, Mashia, that means my dog is waiting. Another fellow said, my putitami, that means my girlfriend is waiting. They all went away. They were all nice people, but Friday, 5 p.m. in Paris is a different issue, those days at least. So I called this boss. He came. I explained to him what I had done. Those days we used to work on Hollerith cards, these punch cards. And what I found was we had to recreate the databases from the beginning of the week. But we found that the tape had been slightly realigned and it was not loading. So finally it ended up that I had to go back to 4-week-old tape and put in all the changes in the source code. For all the people, there were 250 application programmers, there were 18 people in the operating system, of which I was one. The work of 268 people over 1 month had to be loaded and incrementally improved day after day after day. So my boss asked me. He used to call me kid because I was very young. Kid, how much time will you take? I said, Colin, I think it will take about 20 to 23 hours. You know what he did? He picked up phone. He called his wife. He said, look, I won't be able to come for the dinner that we are supposed to go. Please, convey my sincere apologies to them. You go ahead with the children because I have to be here with my colleague in the office. He was a non-technical fellow. He was not a technical man. But he sat with me. He brought me dinner. He brought me late night coffee. He brought me breakfast next morning, lunch. By about 2 p.m. next day, it was over. And he was telling me jokes. He was making sure that I didn't lose heart. He was giving me confidence. He was encouraging me, all of that. And when the job got finished, and he said, check once more. I did it. Then he said, kid, next time if you did this, I will spank you. No, see the beauty. I think all of you have to learn from this. Till the work was completed, he knew I was working very, very hard. He knew that he should not discourage me. He knew that he should not demoralize me. He was encouraging. He cancelled his own dinner with some friend. He stood with me. He brought coffee, tea, dinner, lunch, everything. He need not have done that. He could have gone home. That's when I learned the concept of bottom line responsibility. This was in Paris from my boss that I learned what is to be a leader, what is the meaning of bottom line responsibility. So I would say that there were so many people who have taught so many things to me, and whatever little I am a product of all these wonderful things.
Wonderful. Wow. So we have about 7 to 8 minutes, sir, and let me take you now to the little macro picture. We would like to hear your views on for the drivers of our economy from the private sector. What is your message to the business community, to the startup community, to the artisans who actually in their own silent way also are part of this accelerated change, sir?
Well, first of all, you people are entrepreneurs in an era when our governments, both at the center and in the states, has understood the power of entrepreneurship. During the time when we started, Indira Gandhi had not understood. I mean, she was a great lady, she did a lot of wonderful things, but somehow the environment in the late 70s and early 80s, people had not understood the power of entrepreneurship. So there was not that much encouragement. But today, whether it is Gujarat or whether it is Karnataka, whether it is Maharashtra, Chennai, Uttarakhand, wherever you go, or UP, everywhere the leaders have understood the power of entrepreneurship. Second, in the 60s and 70s, India was seen as a filthy and dirty country where you have to be very careful if you want to visit. But today that is not true. Thanks to people like Arun, Murli, Kanwal, Deshpande, Suhas, many others, Rajat Gupta, then many others who did a lot of good things. The image of India has gone very high. There is, thanks to Satya, thanks to Sundar, many others, the Indians in the valley, in Route 128, in Research Triangle Park, and all these places, they have proved to Americans that Indians can be world beaters. I think we must all be very grateful to non-resident Indians for their contribution to India, and I am very, very proud of them. Third, today there is so much of venture money in India. Now it has reduced slightly in, starting last year, it has reduced, but that has happened throughout the world. It's nothing new to India. But till 2020 or 2021, there was no problem of venture capital in the country. But even today, there is enough venture capital. The banks have recognized what software is, what high-tech is. The banks are ready to venture finance. They were not ready in the 80s. So I would say that all the factors are in your favor. But at the same time, You have much bigger challenges than we had. At that time, there were very few countries that had embraced entrepreneurship. It's only US, Europe a little bit, but otherwise they have not much. And we, India, had an extraordinarily good competitive advantage, which is availability of reasonably well-talented manpower or talent. But today, there are smart entrepreneurs in China, in Thailand, in Japan, in Eastern Europe, in France, in Israel, in Brazil, in addition to US. So therefore, your market is much more crowded than our market. It is more difficult to succeed today than it was during my time. What that means is you have to work harder, you have to work smarter, you have to innovate more, you have to seek talent better than we had. So the leadership today is therefore much more difficult than it was during our time. All that I would say is, just as we say, the reward for winning the semi-finals is to get to play the finals, which is a tougher game, with a tougher opponent. That's all the reward for winning the semi-finals. Nobody gets a trophy when you win a semi-final. They say, friend, you have the stamina and you have showed that you can win this game. Now I'll give you a tougher game. So therefore, all the wonderful things that you have done, the wonderful conditions that the various governments in India have created, all the venture money that is available, all the good things that have happened, only means that you are a worthy warrior for a tougher battle. This requires you to make more sacrifices. You have to improve the productivity of people. You have to make sure that you people work much more than Chinese, much more than Israelis, etc., etc. So that requires strong aspiration, strong work ethic, strong determination, strong teamwork, etc., etc. So I would wish every one of you the best of everything, but remember that you are going to play, or you're playing, a much bigger, much tougher game than we ever played, than India ever played. And God has chosen you people as people worthy of playing that game. And that trust that the whole country has put in you means you cannot let them down. You know, one of the biggest leadership responsibilities is not to let people down. So you have been given that extraordinary opportunity. Please don't let the Indian people down. Put in the best that you can. Make all the sacrifices that you are needed, because today's sacrifice will result in tomorrow's fortune, tomorrow's grand vision becoming a reality. That's what I would say. Thanks.
Mr. Murthy started Infosys with 10,000 rupees, as the story goes. And today he has a valuation of $71 billion. So his mantra that he has often spoken about, and I would like to conclude with his famous quote, you need a vision to succeed. Success is never about money. So, Mr. Murthy, on behalf of TiE Ahmedabad, we wish you well. And we thank you profusely for sharing your views and your valuable time with us today. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.